Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Tonight is Woke Wednesdays. We do this every single Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tonight we have a really cool episode in store for you. We have a really cool guest. My name is Hurston. Like I said, we do this every single Wednesday. And you are...
Amor Capdevilla.
And what do you do?
A lot.
Okay. Oh, yeah, so please promote yourself. Yeah, because you do a lot. Yeah.
I'm going to plug myself.
Oh, please do.
I basically make vegan meals for particular clients on a weekly basis. So I'm always trying to get people to find healthier ways of living, whether that be through the food that you're eating or other techniques that I use. I also do like some freelance photography. I went to school for interior design.
That explains.
Yeah. And I am very big into healing and the world of Reiki and mindfulness and just using different techniques on becoming more in tune with yourself.
And tonight we're talking about that, right? Tonight's topic, I know we said it was going to be like, we're going to address stress, but I think that's just a part of just kind of being in tune with yourself, kind of loving yourself. And so something that you constantly have like clients and you meet with a lot of people. And please let us know what are some of the stressors that you deal with in your daily life. I don't think you have any stress in your daily life.
I think I do. I do.
So what are some of like the stressors that you see, whether in your life or in clients and people who kind of speak to you?
Okay. I would say I have, anywhere from like my family members, which is very surprising because a lot of times older people have a very difficult time admitting that they have something that they're uncomfortable with about themselves, or getting too into stress and letting things kind of wrap them up. But my family members, my friends, coworkers, sometimes even strangers will just start talking to me about things. Like, people are very drawn to just wanting to tell me things for some reason, but I've taken that as like a gift in that sense, to be able to open up conversation with them. I would say a lot of times it comes down to overworking, not feeling that they have enough time to do other things that they enjoy with their life, spending time with the people that they care about, like lack of motivation or lack of self-direction. And sometimes people will feel like a lot of things that are going on in their life are not lining up to what they thought they would like it to be at a particular time. Like, people are really scared of time. And that fear of not accomplishing something by a certain age, or being who you think you should be by a certain age. Those are very big, I think, anxieties with a lot of people that I talk about.
You're so right. I was just talking to one of my friends, and she was saying, I should have been married by now. I was supposed to have kids in a year. And I was like, she was stressing me out just by listening to her. I was like, oh my goodness. So Mrs. Cherry is saying, me too. People love sharing with her as well. You said you see this as a gift.
Yeah, I think that not everybody possesses their own qualities that I think are very endearing and that you can give back and help people around you. But you have to kind of become in tune with what those qualities are. And for me, it was always people telling me things and carrying almost like a burden of their problems. And it could become a little overwhelming depending on what those topics are in the conversations. But I found it very easy to not let those things bring me down. And in that, I was like, okay, this is something that I can actually use to help people, because I'm not taking in all of that negative energy. I'm like listening it out with them and then engaging and giving my honest opinion if they ask for it in that moment.
Now, I know we've talked about, I remember you were saying, like, I'm not a psychologist. I remember one of our first conversations, but you're doing a lot of things that I guess we hear like that psychologists do, like, but it seems like in a very like natural way. I don't know if I'm using the right language.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
So, like, what are some things that people kind of like tell you, like when they come to you and like, hey, this and this and this is happening? Like, what are your reactions to that? And are there like some first steps that you usually kind of go through, like, well, maybe we can do this, maybe we can do that? Or have you ever told anyone like, no, sorry, I can't help?
I've never told anybody no. I've never like straight up been like, I can't. physically not like listen to what you're saying, because sometimes at the end of the day people just want to speak about something, because when you say it out loud it kind of makes it reality, and in that moment a lot of times people can find their own clarity by just sharing what it is that they're going through with somebody. So sometimes I'm just like a soundboard, and people just like know that I'm coming from a non-judgmental place, which is very important. Like, you're not telling me something where I'm going to come back at you with what you should be doing. Like, I'm allowing you to release that energy, and then if you ask for my opinion or what you think could help, at that point then I interject and say something. If that makes sense.
No, yeah, I think it makes complete sense. And I see new people getting on. This is your first time joining. Please feel free to post comments, ask questions. We have a person who is extremely knowledgeable, and kind of getting in tune with yourself, which is something that I think is so hard to do. At least the way I think about it. And I'm sure you've heard people like say that, like, it's so hard for me to get in tune with myself. So like, what is your reaction like when you hear people say that, or like when people are thinking this?
I think it's like I have these conversations on a daily basis, so I feel like it's become the norm for me, where I'm kind of happy that people are asking these questions, because for a long time we've been in like this little box, and you're supposed to go to school, and you're supposed to get good grades, and you're supposed to go to college, and then get a job, and then get married one day and buy a house and have a kid, and it's like, but that's not everybody's like fantasy life. And so you get trapped in this box of how you should be feeling about something, instead of asking yourself, what makes me happy? And so I get really excited when I have those conversations with people, because you start finding out things about yourself, and they also start finding out things about themselves. So I think it's just very important. Like, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not, like, I just do healing, I like talking with people about things, but I think it's very important to engage in those conversations more often than not, because since we're evolving creatures, the way that we interpret things and our feelings toward things, they're always changing as we learn things. And so the more that you ask yourself those questions, the more you become kind of in tune with what makes you feel good, what makes you feel bad. And I think that when you start focusing on those things that make you feel good, more of those good things come, because you're kind of forming like an energy connection with that idea of what makes you happy.
So what kind of brought you to this? Because like we were kind of talking earlier that, like, especially in a place like Miami, like where it's such a huge city, people are really like into their own world, their own business. They have to, keep it moving. Like, this is like a very like unique thing that you do. Like, I was saying that on your Instagram, you're always kind of exuding this happiness and like positive energy, and I'm like, where did she get all this? Like, she has like a magic box of like happy energy. Like,
it's like, whoop.
Like, where do you keep all this energy? So like, what kind of brought you to this type of thinking in the first place, and then to like beginning to contact folks and communicate with them about this type of stuff?
I want to say that I want to like give big thanks to my family, I would say, because they really taught me like what unconditional love is, and I think that that's a very hard concept to grasp, because you can like love your family and you're like, I love my family so like the day they die, it doesn't matter what they do, but you can't necessarily say that about a stranger. But when you have this sense of unconditional love, you can also feel that for somebody you don't know, and I think that that's like what we strive for as human beings, is to just like be able to love one another. So my family really instilled that in me, which was, I think, it was the foundation of how everything else escalated in my life. And when I was in college, I was like really just trying to find myself, and I started reading a lot of like spirituality books, and just kind of understanding what my opinion was about things, instead of seeing so much of it as what my parents taught me or what my grandparents taught me that they believed in. And so I gave myself that space, and I've always just been a happy person. I don't really let things like harbor inside of me. And I learned that very early on, where I was just like in an environment where I was like, this is like harmful, or somebody was saying something negative, and I was like, I don't need to hold on to this. It's like, it's really hard to let go, but I feel like I started noticing that probably like around the time I was in college, and I was like, we need to let this go, and it opened up other doors.
So this process of like letting go is something that is so difficult, at least in my personal experience and just kind of talking to friends, whether it's, someone, was talking about them in a negative way, a breakup, something with a family member. Letting things go, it seems to be very difficult. So like, but you were kind of talking about it, just kind of like, yeah, just let it go. Like, what are some things that like help you let things go? What are some things that you tell other people that might help them? I don't know if anyone can relate to holding on to things.
We love being hoarders of emotions.
Yeah, I like that, hoarders of emotions.
Yes,
yeah,
that's what we are. I would say that the concept of letting go is very difficult, but the one thing that I think I've said to you in our first conversation, and I literally will say time and time and time again, is the moment that you can let go of trying to control everything around you is the moment where you gain the most control in your life.
Can you say it again?
It's
Please.
the moment that you let go of trying to control everything around you that you actually gain control of your life. Because there are so many things that are outside of our hands that we physically cannot control. Like, I can't control what time you drove to my house or when we were meeting. But I can basically only control my reaction and how I interact with that in that moment. And so by me letting that aspect go of understanding, hey, this is something that I shouldn't stress about because there's no tie to me to that. We're all coexisting together and these things can happen. So it's being more accepting, I think, and allowing things to kind of flow and you then reacting to it as it happens. So it all really comes down to like just living in the present moment and taking it like just like second by second and processing it in that.
Yeah, I was about to say, it seems like it's like a process, not something that you can just do overnight.
No.
It seems like this is just kind of...
I mean, I struggle with it too. I think that this is something that we struggle with for the rest of our lives because I could sit here and say, it's hard to let go of the fact that I have to think about when I gotta pay my light bill and when I gotta pay rent and when I need to pay for this and those are things that I can't necessarily control, right? Yeah. I know that the bill's coming, but why would I? But like, it's gonna come regardless. So like, why stress yourself about it? Especially like, I think we focus a lot of times on the lack of having something instead of thinking with an abundant mindset. And when we think of being in the lack, like, oh my God, I have to pay my light bill, but I don't have the money. You sit and think about more and more about not having the money versus saying, okay, I know I don't have this money right now, but I'm open to any way that this money can come to me by the time I gotta pay this light bill. And when you're kind of putting yourself in this positive area, like the right thing or a person might lend you money, or you might find $100 in your pocket that you forgot about. Like it seems crazy, but it really, really does happen because you're allowing for like the energies in the world that are matching to the energy that you're trying to attract to come to you.
So I do have a follow-up question about this, about energy, because part of this conversation implies like having a very open mind to kind of what you're saying. Before I ask that question, Eric had a great question about where does trauma fit into this equation?
Trauma. I think
it's a hard question.
Yeah, but I think that everybody experiences trauma. I think that trauma can be something, it's very subjective as far as how in depth or how deep that trauma goes, because somebody can get into an accident and find trauma in that, or somebody can have a very rough childhood growing up and gotten beat for a very long time, and sexual assault, sexual harassment, even like just verbal abuse. A lot of times like that goes overlooked because you're not physically hitting somebody, but the way that you speak to people, it has a very profound impact on them, and that also then goes to like how we speak to ourselves. But trauma is exactly everything that we're talking about, because how we then approach every experience that we have in life, especially the traumatic ones, which are the hard ones to deal with, that's when we have experienced the most growth in our life, because we're allowing these very difficult moments to shape us to be a better person, to go through it and know that you can be still resilient through that, and that it made you a better person because of it. I believe that there's a silver lining behind everything, and it's really hard to explain that sometimes, especially when there's, you know, the loss of somebody or traumatic things that are happening around the world. But these things happen to kind of push us to a limit so that we could just be better people.
And this is something that I think we're going to address too once we get into kind of like the Reiki circles and and what you do to kind of address this like head on. But a follow-up question to this was, this requires an open mind. Like talking about energy, I know if I go to talk to some of my friends, hey man, you got to have some positive energy, and and then my energy with your energy, and the person, what the hell are you talking about? Like, so like, do you ever get people who just kind of like, what are you talking about right now?
I want to say that maybe I don't notice it anymore, if anything. I think that it's where you focus your attention is exactly what you end up like attracting more of. But there are people that I've tried to explain Reiki to, or just mindfulness and like just being more in tune with who you are, and it becomes a very foreign concept to them because they're in the middle of healing in some kind of way. You know what I mean? And that word healing can be used for so many different things, because between work and having a family and paying bills and just like what we think life is, right? We have to do a lot of healing because we might not get along with our boss, or we might, be in a relationship that you no longer want to be in, and there's healing that goes behind that. And so we're constantly in a state of healing. And so it's just a matter of how you want to address it to the person that you're trying to have the conversation with. I think that we all speak very differently, and like you kind of have to feel somebody's energy to know like what right words will spark them to understand what it is that you're trying to say, because I can't explain what I'm explaining to you the same way to every person. Because some people might be more defensive and be like, I don't know what you're talking about, and then other people will be like, oh my god, I love what you're talking about. So it's just a matter of getting the concept of what you're trying to explain and put it in a way that the person your audience will understand. And
to be completely honest, like I'm a person that like I've become very like, I don't know where I am as far as like religious kind of experiences, things that when we talk about like the soul and being in tune with yourself, like I'm very skeptical of like everything. So even this, like for me, this is like requiring me to be very open-minded, but I think it's so important to talk about these things. Just because from an educational perspective, just like learning something new, being open to try different things, to me is just very important. And I have friends who are very anti anything, because we're kind of talking about spiritual kind of maybe in a way. They're very anti that. So one of the ways they cope with their everyday struggles and stress is by drinking a lot. And it seems that the way they talk about drinking is in a very kind of like comical way. So we like laugh at it. And like we know one thing through research, that college students are usually extreme, like a lot of times they're alcoholics. But because of college culture and like
you
movies,
justify it with partying.
We justify it. We're just having a good time. We're young. We're having fun. But that, in a way, for them is a way they deal with their stress and their everyday issues of life, which maybe kind of goes to what you're saying, that people are going through a process of healing, but maybe they're healing in a very maybe toxic way.
Yes.
So do you see that too sometimes, like with other people that you engage with, that it's like, hey, I don't really want to do that stuff, but I'm gonna go party. Like nothing wrong with partying.
Yeah. No.
But the drugs or I'm not talking about weed, because weed is a different type of drug, but like
that's something else.
but like heavy narcotics.
Yeah,
right?
no, like pills and
your heroin, your but also drinking, like excess drinking.
Yeah.
So do you ever like meet people like that are kind of going through that situation?
I want to say that it's maybe been a minute. I think that a lot of the people that have been coming into my life recently are very people who are asking the right questions to themselves. So like seeking this better version of themselves. That I've been interacting a lot with. But occasionally I do, and I think that even, like myself, I mean, I didn't go to a party school, so it wasn't like I was out drinking, but I engaged in that. And I think that that's just a period of time in your life where you're starting to, like, even figure out who you might be. It's a very, like, vulnerable time in your life when you're so young. Which, I mean, we're still really young, but it's like that transition from high school to college and like being an adult and like making real decisions for yourself. And I think that a lot of even children though will take things like Adderall because they are trying to stay up and study, and everything is about getting good grades, and it can, sometimes it's just a way to enhance something that they're trying to, like, this goal that they're trying to get to. So there's still toxicity behind that as well because you're damaging your body.
And Adderall is a very weird type of drug just because it is often extremely abused.
Yeah.
There are people who actually like need it, like, and it doesn't really enhance them. It's more like they actually like need it, but
to function.
Like to function. So,
yeah.
So like, but I definitely see what you're saying. Someone asked, why does weed not fall into this category? I have an answer, but I'm sure maybe you have an answer.
I think that, so we have like stimulants and depressants, and I feel like, the depressants are more like drinking, and that kind of takes you into a dark place. And I think that there's also stimulants like pills and things like that that excite you too much. And I think that for me personally, in my opinion, weed has always been one of those things that it's kind of a very calming feeling. I think that it's a very natural way, and it's also kind of not that you can't abuse it, you just might become a couch potato, but
yeah.
In that sense. But I think that everything in moderation, but I think it can, if you're using it for the right purpose, I think that there's a time and a place, because like we're talking about abusing alcohol and abusing pills, like there's a time and a place and a right amount to be able to still function. And I think drinking obviously is bad, but we all do it. And I think that using it, right? As a coping mechanism is where people, sometimes the line is very blurred because you're like, I'm just trying to have a good time. But where does that good time like put you?
And when it comes to weed too, so weed is sanctioned by the state, by the government, that it is illegal in most places. For the longest time we've seen this, and now we're seeing that it can be used for medicinal purposes. We're also seeing that it can be used for social recreation in certain states. So when it comes to things being classified as illegal or as a drug, and drug automatically carries a negative connotation. I'm always skeptical of that too, because what things are considered a crime? Like, we have presidents bombing the shit out of, participating in stuff with Palestine and Central American countries, but we don't consider that a crime. We consider that security. So I'm always very skeptical of what is considered a crime, why it's considered a crime, why did this get deemed as illegal in the first place. And now we're seeing that there's being kind of like this, marijuana is being allowed in like places like California, Colorado. So I'm very skeptical when it comes to people kind of naming things as illegal, especially when it comes to something like weed. So to me, I don't really take that as like a serious drug. To me, alcohol and cigarettes, and we also have research to back this up, the negative effects and side effects of it are far more dangerous than marijuana.
By far.
So that's, I guess, reasons why we talk about weed in that way. Mm-hmm. So one thing that you've kind of been, Erica's saying, but just as alcohol can be abused, we can be abused as well. The conversation isn't about legality, but just about abusing substances. The abuse of marijuana, and tonight's episode isn't about that, and we can definitely, we should have an episode on marijuana.
That should be one.
So that'll be coming up soon. We're just gonna leave this comment here, and then we'll come back to it maybe later. But I want to get into something that you've been mentioning about Reiki circles. And I mentioned earlier in the promo video about how, especially like in communities of color, which I'm mostly around, we don't really talk about positive coping mechanisms for stress, or how to love yourself better, how to love others better. We usually talk about turning up, again, alcohol for sure. Some people go to church and that's the way that helps them. But you like do some other things which are really cool. requires an open mind, which
Yes.
I'm all for. So if you could please just kind of talk about it and tell us what is it that you do. So yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I would say probably about 2 years ago, I got into Reiki, which is basically an old Japanese healing technique. And my Reiki master, the one who taught me, I've known her pretty much my entire life. And so I think going into something where you have to be open-minded, the fact that I knew this woman made it a lot easier for me to engage with and to connect with her on what it was that she was talking about. Kind of dance around the idea of looking into what Reiki was to begin with for about a year. And then I knew it had to do with something good, something with good energy. I wasn't sure what it was. And then I went to one of her Reiki circles, and it was just so comforting. It was just a group of people that were all simply there because they wanted to release negative energy and kind of like cleanse themselves to find this, hey, I'm gonna go to sleep tonight, I'm gonna sleep really well, tomorrow's a new day, like clean slate kind of vibe. And it was really interesting. I cried that first time. I cry for everything, so that doesn't really count. However, it was still an experience because it was like this sense of connection and familiarity with people that I didn't even know. And there's a lot of different people who do Reiki that, you know, they can go very deep and walk with the Native Americans in South America, and they'll pick up some of the traits and rituals and songs and
So
all
it's
of
not
that.
just Japanese.
No. It started off in Japan. Dr. Usui was the one that kind of went through all the Sanskrit scriptures and pieced this together. And they used to use it back then, like a very, very long time ago, for healing purposes. That it could have even been people with ailments, which almost sounds kind of crazy, because how do you cure somebody with just like energy? But it was a very sacred thing, and not a lot of people knew about it. And now it's becoming, we're in a stage where people are really starting to rediscover themselves, and what is my connection to another person? What is my connection to the world? Like, what is my purpose? And so over the last like 100 years, it really kind of evolved into what it is now, where a lot of people are having open dialogue about it. You can probably find a Reiki circle if you Google it somewhere where you live. But it's a very comforting sense of releasing negative energy and allowing positive energy to come in. So within that, you just feel like less stressed and a little bit more having an open mind and having more clarity into like the things that you would choose to do. And so I particularly felt that this was like a really cool tool to be able to share with my friends and my family. And so I brought it and started kind of just doing my own Reiki circles at home just to see how it would kind of happen. And now I've been doing them for a little bit over a year, and I absolutely love engaging with people. I kind of did my own spin on it just because I wanted to engage with people that were like in our demographic, and you know, like the Latinos, the Blacks, even guys, which is sometimes very hard, we were talking about earlier, for guys to like kind of tap into what they're feeling at all. And it's a very safe space. And so I have everybody kind of sit around, and the first half of the Reiki circle will kind of speak. We'll pick like a topic, kind of like what we're doing now, and have a dialogue. And everybody kind of goes around and shares what they feel about that particular topic. And it can be very therapeutic, because sometimes you figure out things about yourself that you really weren't sure that you wanted to share, or that you weren't even sure that you felt. But in that moment, you might find that sense of clarity. And a lot of times you're around people that you might not know, and in that moment, it's kind of like you become this little family, and everybody's there like to be supportive of whatever it is that you're sharing, to like kind of say, damn, like you just said that, but I'm literally going through the same exact thing. And had we not sat down and had this conversation, we would have never known. Because who's sitting down at school or at work and saying, hey man, you know, my feelings are really hurt right now. It's like not the easiest conversation to have, or just personal things. And there's so much relatability between all of us if we only opened up the conversation for that.
So real quick, because you said a lot right now.
I know.
I was trying to piece it all together. The first time that we spoke on the phone, I was saying that part of this sounds like similar to church. In this, so I grew up in like this very like Pentecostal church, like people who like run and do jumping jacks and stuff in church.
Really?
Yeah, like
Jumping Jacks in
I'm,
church.
I'm exaggerating. I'm exaggerating so much.
Okay.
But it was like these Pentecostal churches, Kojic churches for y'all that know. And like if someone like is feeling an ailment, like if they're sick, they're very much like they'll pray for them with this belief that can go away.
Okay.
Through this prayer. And they'll lay hands on people. They'll have like a prayer circle, whatever. And when you were kind of telling me about this at first, I'm like, wow, like, it sounds like very similar to like some churches that I've been to. But in this context, it's not like church, or it's not like affiliated with like some type of church, or there's like no like deity that's like being kind of like.
No, there's no book that we go around and say, hey, this is.
There's no like money pickup thing.
No.
It's really like this like energy and like just feels like kind of like a safe space, like where people can just kind of come and just kind of talk.
Yeah.
And that is one component of it, the energy.
Yeah. So like the first half we kind of speak to kind of let people release something that they want to, and then the Reiki aspect of it is when I go around and like lay hands. So basically, this is the part where people are like, what is it that you're talking about?
Yeah, like I just like froze right now. I'm like, what do you
like, why are you gonna touch me? But the whole process of Reiki basically is just like,
before we get to that. So
okay.
So people come, and please, if y'all have any questions, please feel free to ask, because I'm curious. I'm sure y'all are curious. So please feel free to ask questions or post comments. If you've done Reiki before, let us know. So people come into a space. Last week, right? You did it last week or 2 weeks ago?
It was 2 weekends ago.
You did it outside on the beach.
We did it at the beach, yeah.
So that's pretty cool. It was like at night, right?
Yeah, it's at night under the full moon.
Is there like a thing with like the full moon, or is it just like?
I like to do it every full moon.
Does it like symbolize something?
Usually, you could do it under the full moon or the new moon. The new moon symbolizes like new intention. So like the new moon was last night.
What is
so basically, the moon is in the transitionary period where it's in the beginning of the month, and so this is where it's really good to set the intentions that you want to have for the rest of the month. So like, I want to eat better, I want to exercise more, I want to just be happier. Like those are just things to kind of like check off a list.
Yeah.
Every new moon, because I feel like it motivates you to kind of keep yourself in check about the things that you want to better for yourself.
Yeah.
But it symbolizes like the new moon with this new concept of you setting these intentions.
So is it like an astrology like connected to this?
Yeah, there's astrology, and it has to do with like signs and like the placement of this and that. I mean, you can get really into it. But I like to make things very simple for people because not everybody's into all of that. So I think that I try to take the aspects that we could apply to our life that are very simple, and use them as tools to kind of help us on a daily. That doesn't necessarily need to be like you're this devout person that's into astrology or the placement of the stars, and it doesn't need to be all that. But the new moon symbolizes that, and then the full moon symbolizes the time of reflection. So to look back at the last month that's happened and say, these were the intentions that I had, what went wrong, or like how could I have improved it, and like what are the things that are not serving a purpose in my life anymore, and like releasing those thoughts or those people or situations to kind of put yourself in a better like playing field.
So okay, so I have a lot of questions. I'm trying to process it. So people come and so one thing that's really cool, I think that you said that not everyone's going to be into all this like the signs and like the other components of it. So you make it very, very simple. And to be very clear, you're not charging people. This isn't like a
no.
Because I don't want people to think that what kind of scam is this? Like,
it's no scam. I literally open up my door. I usually do it literally where we are right now in my home. Literally have been doing this for over a year here, and I open it up to donations. If you want to donate something, you most certainly can.
Yeah.
But it's simply you just gotta show up. That's all you gotta do is just show up. And people sometimes like, well, I'll send it out to people and they're like, I'm so sorry I couldn't come. And the first thing I tell them, like, don't apologize that you couldn't come. Like, the right time when you feel like you need to release yourself of any stress is the day that you're gonna end up coming. And just know that I'm always gonna have it every month. Yeah. So it's just like whenever you feel the need to do it.
Yeah. So real quick, Menace is saying a lot of what she's mentioning sounds like vinyasa yoga. I guess you know what it is.
Yeah.
and healing trauma induced injuries through deep breathing and stretching. So would you say that's kind of correct?
Yeah, I want to say it all kind of goes hand in hand though.
Okay.
Because Reiki is basically like, we'll get into that. It's just like laying of the hands and like this sense of energy. But a lot of that really goes in hand with yoga and with meditating, because you're giving yourself that time to just focus on your body, and breathing is one of the greatest things that you could ever do as a human being. Because not only are you bringing oxygen into your body, but you're also allowing yourself to calm your whole entity down. We get worked up a lot and we might get agitated or very sad, but the moment that you can focus on your breathing, which you focus on your breathing when you're meditating, when you're doing yoga, it's a very big aspect of that. It really calms your whole body down, so it almost brings you to like the sense of center, where you can like make a more rational decision because your body's like at this normal state.
And breathing seems like something that is so basic.
It is.
Right? But yet extremely important.
It's
obviously.
like so important.
For obvious reasons, but also it sounds like there's also a technique to it that you're kind of
Yeah. I think that people too, like when I've had people ask me like, oh, you know, I'm having a really bad day at work. I had this one friend, she like reached out and she was like, every day I go in and, you know, I work in a doctor's office and everybody's so draining and they want so much of me, and how do I let go of that? Like there's no her like taking herself out of that situation. And there's just little things like breathing, like take yourself a 2-minute, you know, break and walk into the hallway, go into the bathroom, go into your car. I think that just sitting there for a moment with yourself and just doing like 5 deep breaths and like exhales, like it completely will change how you're then going to proceed with everything you're going on, that's going on in your life from that point on.
And one thing that's interesting too, so Reiki isn't something that is, at least for me, it's not as common like as like yoga, and the way that we hear about it.
Yeah.
Yoga, we hear about it everywhere, right? But it seems like
it took a long time though.
No, yeah, but now it's been like kind of like co-opted. Like people just kind of, it's just like a thing that doesn't seem like scary to people anymore. It's like, oh, that's yoga, okay.
Yeah.
Reiki, I think, for people who might be skeptical, is something that may be new to them. They've never heard of it, so they might be a little skeptical. But I love that you're saying that it kind of goes hand in hand with other things such as yoga, or I forgot what it was called, vinyasa.
Vinyasa yoga.
Vinyasa yoga. So I think that's pretty cool. And someone was saying, couldn't listening while driving. Interesting discussion. Very cool.
Thanks.
So the first half of Reiki is you come together and you said you just kind of have a topic.
Yeah.
People talk.
It could be like, you know what, like I think 2017 was a very difficult year for me, and it was for a lot of people. And I think the beginning of the year I was like, we are starting off with letting 2017 go. So I just was like, everybody, like the topic is letting things go. What are the things that have been holding you back, whether it was like self-doubt or people or a situation, maybe going to school for something you don't want to go to school for, or it could be anything. And those are things that stress us out. And when you're not in like a good place mentally, it's really hard to function in anything else.
Yeah.
And so it's very important to just focus where you are and where your thoughts are constantly, because what you think is exactly what you're going to manifest before your eyes. And I can't like emphasize that anymore. So yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking of just kind of like the process of that.
So 2017, let's say that's the topic. So
yeah, I was just like, I told everybody, I was like, tell me the things that you're trying to get rid of. And like we all went around, and for me particularly, one of the biggest things that I feel like, especially getting into Reiki, when it's really hard to just walk on the street and have a conversation with somebody that might not be open to the idea of what it is, was self-doubt. And I think that that's something that everybody has in anything. We are our worst critics, our hardest critics. We literally we critique everything about ourselves. And for me, it was just like, how can I possibly help someone if I'm doubting the one thing that I'm trying to use to help them? And so in the beginning, it was hard for me, and I didn't even want to do the Reiki circles because I was like, who's going to show up, number one? And number two, like, if I'm doubting myself, they're going to feel that I'm doubting myself. And so when I realized that was when I then sat down and like, okay, no, I need to do this because I need to get over this fear of not being able to help people when I know that that's something that I truly think that I'm meant to do. And that's one of the things that I always write down that I want to let go of is self-doubt, because I don't think it ever really goes away. I think that it's a constant that you have to kind of attack and remind yourself, like, I'm not Gerson, but like I'm gonna do it the way that I can, and that needs to be the,
No, I completely agree. And it's so difficult, which I think it's so important that you do this continuously. That you do this monthly.
Yeah.
Right, and you seem like you're always kind of available for folks, like so it's like a constant. It's a process, like we were kind of theme of tonight. It's a process of just kind of letting go. So once you're there, right? I guess I don't know how long you do that for. How long? What is it like?
I mean, we're usually together for a couple hours, just depending on how many people show up, because I don't put a limit to like how long somebody wants to share something.
Yeah.
Because I feel like
cut anybody off the head. You're talking.
No, I think that it's very important that if you want to share it, it's meant for you to release that energy. So,
cool.
If you come, be open to spending a couple hours with us.
This is good to know. I thought it was like an hour.
No. It's a little bit of a process. Like I said, depending on how many people show up. But everybody goes around. I have like my little feather, and we pass it around as like our speaking device, and we're like, okay, it's your turn. And everybody, it's really cool because people like to fidget when they get nervous, so they'll start like caressing the feather, so it's like this nice calming way that they can speak.
That's cool.
And so they'll share what it is that they want to, and sometimes I let people interject. Like I want it to be an open dialogue, because sometimes people are like, you know what, I'm going through the same thing as this person that just spoke, and like, me too. Like, and you start to find that so many of us are literally struggling with the same things, and everybody becomes so much more open, and then they'll like interject and like, hey, I did this, or I read this book that helped me, and it becomes this very therapeutic kind of moment where everybody's engaging and not on their phone and like trying to take a picture to post to Instagram. Or
I was gonna ask, like, do people ever get on their phone?
No, like everybody, I've never asked anybody to not like bring their phone. They just know, like, they turn it off, they leave it on the dining table or wherever it is in their bag, and they take it serious, because I think that these, like, when they come, it's like they want to really release whatever it is that might be bothering them, and those things are distractions in that moment. I think it's very important for you to like have a specific time for specific things. Like, you don't want to be reading a book and then looking at your phone and reading a text message. That doesn't make sense. So it's just to have a moment to focus, even if it's 5 minutes, on a particular thing, so that you can really interact with what's going on.
And so the other component of Reiki, and if you're just now joining us, we're talking about a lot.
Everything. Mindfulness, being happy.
Being happy, loving yourself, letting things go, self-doubt.
The process.
2017, earlier today.
Bye.
So the other part is, you said the touching.
That sounds very inappropriate.
Sorry.
The laying of hands.
I was about to say rubbing, but I was like, no, that might be worse.
No.
That might be worse.
There's
the laying of hands.
The laying of hands.
Which, like, to me, I'll be completely honest, that freaks me out. Like, someone like, what do you mean you lay hands?
Like, why are you gonna touch me?
Like, why? Like, so that like freaks me out. Like, just so what do you? Have you ever had anyone freak out on you?
No,
like, hey.
no. I think that when you come, you're already coming with an open mind.
Okay.
So you're kind of like, all right, let me see what this entails. I've never had anybody like freak out. And too, at the beginning of every Reiki circle, if there's anybody that's new, I always tell them step by step, like, what it is that we're doing, so that they have like a mental guideline of like where we are and what's happening, because I don't want them to just like sit through it and be like, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
So I always tell them, we speak in the beginning, and then we can take like a water break. Because because it could take about, we could literally sit and speak for like an hour, and everybody can go around and like share things. And so, if anybody wants to get up and use the bathroom or drink some water, I make tea for everybody.
You sit on the floor?
Yeah, we sit on the floor in a circle.
I was curious. My chair.
It's a vibe. Like, it's incense. Like, it's just like aromatherapy. It's all a very relaxing environment. So it's just to like kind of calm everybody down. There's no bright lights. It's just like for you to just like kind of be in your zone and like just like write out whatever it is that you're feeling. And so the Reiki portion then, which is the technique, it's just basically like you become attuned to it by a Reiki master. However, we all possess this. It's not something that like, oh, there's an elite 5 people in this world that can do this. Like anybody can do this.
Are you a master?
No, but I'm on my way to becoming a Reiki master, but I have my 2 degrees, so almost there.
It's like levels to it.
Yeah, so basically you have your first, your second, and then your third, you become a Reiki master.
Oh.
Which your Reiki master, basically then I can teach people also to become attuned to it. So stay tuned for that. But
follow-up episode.
Yeah. So it's really just connecting with the energy that exists within the world. I mean, and that's just science, that everything possesses some kind of currency, some kind of energy charge. And in that energy is what kind of like makes everything thrive and live, and plants have it, animals have it, food, like everything possesses energy.
Is it bad that so I'm a big Dragon Ball Z fan.
Yeah.
The first thing that came to mind was, I don't know if y'all, the Spirit Bomb, or no, what's it called? Spirit Bomb, right?
I don't watch Dragon Ball Z as much as you do, but I know who like Goku is.
Goku has like the spirit. Essentially he creates this like bomb,
like energy source, right?
Of just like the plants, the animals.
That's exactly what it is.
And that's what
I need to watch this Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
So that I can like.
That's how he beats Frieza.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what it is, though.
Yeah.
Like we all possess this energy, and I think well, the easiest way to explain it is that like I'm just becoming like a channel of like an extra voltage of this energy because I'm allowing all this positive energy to then go to you. I'm not giving you any of my energy.
It's funny. I was
it's just like I'm just like giving it to you, but it's just a very calming sensation. Sometimes people don't feel anything at all. Sometimes people will feel like my hand's getting really warm or a little tingly, but it basically just goes through like the chakras of your body, right? So
what are the chakras again, please?
Okay.
like
we have seven. Yeah, we have 5. We have 7 chakras, like our head, our third eye, our throat, our heart, our solar plexus, our sacral, and our root. So basically, they're just different little vortexes of energy, and when they get kind of clogged, is like when we feel uneasy about certain things, like the overthinking or not being able to project what we want to say, or we feel heartbreak, or all of those things kind of make sense when you say it like that, right? And they get blocked because we feel down, we feel like we don't have energy, or we feel bad, or always upset, or always sad. And so basically the Reiki calms you down enough to release that negative energy, so you have this sense of like clarity within your body, right? And like all your chakras. So that portion I have everybody lay down and kind of meditate. So everybody's just laying down. I like turn up the music, light the incense, I sage everybody. So it's very a calming, meditating state, and I go around and just like lay my hands where I need to.
So knowing me, I feel like if I lay down and there's like some like lights are down, I feel like I'm gonna fall asleep.
Which is fine.
That's okay?
Yeah. Oh. I like it when people fall asleep.
Oh, okay.
Because that means that you're very, very, very calm.
Okay. So maybe it's a misconception around meditation, because we see it on TV and there's these like elaborate, stereotypical ideas of what meditating is.
Yes.
So what do you mean by meditating?
I think that meditating, and this is my opinion, not everybody's like a guru that's sitting and like crossing their legs and chanting Om and saying, oh, I'm meditating, right? I think that there's different forms of meditating. You can sit and focus on your breathing is always number one, no matter what, in any kind of form of meditating. Your breath is a beautiful thing to just focus on. And even that, just sitting and counting your breaths, that's a form of meditation, because you're slowing your brain down, so like, and your ego and everything from overthinking, and just focusing on the fact that your body's breathing and it's inhaling and exhaling, and just that alone is very calming because you're focusing just on that one thing. But there's people that I think like even listen to music. You could be sitting on the sofa and just listening to music, and it's just that moment that you're giving yourself to calm down and stop thinking or trying to worry about things.
Yeah.
I think that people that paint or do art, any of that, I think that those are all their own little forms of meditation because you're focusing on this one thing that is making you feel good.
I think this is really cool. Real quick to the meditating part. So you can be, let's say you're counting your breaths. That seems like sounds like hard. Like, so what would you just kind of sit down and just like breathe in and just kind of
breathe in through your nose, and you can exhale through your mouth or through your nose, and an inhalation and exhalation is one.
Okay.
So just breathe in and breathe out 2. And you can do that while you're driving. Literally, like, you could be doing anything. You could be at work and sitting at a desk, if that's what you do. And take a minute and just take a couple deep breaths. And like, a lot of people say like meditating is hard, like how could you sit for an hour? And it's like, it doesn't need to be that. Like, you could start off by taking a couple minutes, taking 5 minutes every day and just saying, hey, I'm gonna sit in my car before I go into work, I'm gonna play this really mellow music, I'm gonna like breathe for a couple minutes and just count my breaths. And in that moment, so many things will start to change within your body because you've just calmed yourself so much that how you approach the rest of your day can be changed completely because you took 5 minutes to just like calm your whole body down and not be like at 1,000 the moment that you wake up in the morning and be like, I have to do this laundry list of things.
Yeah. Again, it sounds so basic, but it's like so powerful just in the way you're just describing it. Miss We Love Jillian is saying, what's your Insta?
My Insta is at Shmamor, so it's SHMAMOR.
And I also tagged her in the promo video for today, so feel free to just add, if that's okay.
Yeah. Add me, follow me, watch all my stories. I post every day.
She's happy like every day on all her stories.
If you need any happiness, come to me, DM me. I will be there. I will be your friend. Come to my Reiki circle.
Yeah, if you're in Miami. So this sounds really cool. For sure, I think coming into it, I'm just a skeptical person, like, of anything. So I was like, let me be open-minded because I think it's so important, just like to be open-minded about most things. So I was like, this is really cool. Like, just kind of hearing you out and just kind of thinking about it, and it doesn't sound like anything like out of this world. It sounds like a basic thing that I wish more people would do. So like, when do you do this? Like, I know we kind of touched on it earlier, but like, we're in Miami, Florida.
Yeah.
And you do this about once a month?
I do it every month. I do it on the full moon. So if you don't know when the full moon is, just Google it. And it's usually on that same day or like a day before or after, depending on like the schedule or if I'm out of town. But I've done it literally every single month for the past like year and 4 months or something like that. And I also do private sessions as well. So like the Reiki circle is kind of engaging, which is really nice because it's a group of people, you're interacting with people, sometimes strangers. And it's like a nice networking thing too. I've had people leave and like work together afterwards. And I'm like, that's great. So you guys just did business together after you guys relaxed. And then for the private ones, you can basically like come to me or I can go to you, and that's like a full hour of just like, we'll sit and talk a little bit one-on-one, and you can tell me the things that you're looking to kind of release or work on, or if you have anything that might be on your mind that you want to let go of. So kind of talk a little bit in the beginning, and then like a full hour of Reiki, like you lay on a massage table, there's incense, dim lights, kind of the same experience, you're just laying on the massage table. But it's really cool because the Reiki that I give at the Reiki circles for such a small amount of time, because if I have 14 people, I can only go around for like a minute or two to each person. And when you have like a full like hour session, I've had people fall asleep, like knocked out completely. And that just means that they were so relaxed and that they allowed themselves that moment to just like release any negativity that they had, which is really important.
No, absolutely. This sounds really, really cool. I'm so glad we did this show. But at first, I remember when I met you, we were just kind of talking about it. I'm like, oh, this is really cool. I didn't know what all it entailed until we started talking. I'm like, oh, this is really dope. So I hope everyone learned something today. I always share the Woke Wednesdays episodes to the Instagram story, and then also go on YouTube. Can you believe it's been an hour already?
No.
Yeah, just kind of flew by. Is there anything you would tell them, just as kind of just like wrapping up, like what would you kind of tell folks?
The one thing that I did want to say that I know that we talked about one time before that you brought up was like the whole religion thing, and for me, the one thing that my whole premise of why I do anything that I do is just to spread love and to show people that I have unconditional love for them. And that was one of the words that we talked about.
Yeah.
Unconditional love, and having love for everybody, even if it's a stranger or someone who's done something bad to you. We're all deserving of love. And at the end of the day, when we can allow things and let things go and understand that we needed to have that experience to become a better person, and this person might not necessarily need to be in your life anymore, but you have to wish them well, because when we're all in a good state of energy and like happy, that's how we really make movements within our communities and within the world, and really just trying to understand that we're here to help each other and nobody has the answers. And it doesn't matter if you're Buddhist, if you're Catholic, if you praise Allah, like it doesn't matter anything. Like you could praise the sun every single day, but as long as you choose to ask yourself questions about what makes you happy, and then finding the tools around you. Like if you want to meditate or do yoga or do Reiki, or you read, or you give back to the community in a different way. I think those are very important things for us to engage in. And it's a subjective thing, because not the things that make me happy make you happy or you happy, but it's an inward question. And so when we do things with love, and you can go to church, not go to church, do anything that you like, that you feel like you could give back to your community and the people around you. That's, I think, what it's really all about.
Yeah, I think that's great. That's a great, I can't top that. That's a great way to end. Thank you so much to everyone that tuned in tonight. Please feel free to follow. And we'll see y'all next week. Thank you again so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. See you.